We've been dealing with COVID for more than a year and a half now, and though we hope to be done with it by now, we've got a ways to go and more to learn. So this morning, I joined a local group called Women Stepping Up in a panel discussion to talk about how the pandemic has affected us and how we move forward. It was an enlightening discussion, so I've asked one of those panelists to join us on First at 4 to share some of what we learned today. Dr. Kalila, Vice President for Academic Affairs for the University of Southern Indiana, thank you so much for joining us today. And let's start out with the question that kicked off our discussion today. What has been the greatest toll of the pandemic?
So I think Lynn Kyle answered this perfectly, and I'll put my spin on it. I think it's a psychological toll, right? The toll of being confined to our spaces in the beginning of the pandemic and figuring out different ways to navigate how we engage and interact with each other, I think was what came out of that conversation originally.
Everybody being so isolated in their own places and not being able to interact in really one-on-one.
Yes, yes, and that is so important, particularly for folks who thrive off those forms of interactions, right?
Right.
I think I made reference of my children and how that impacted them and not being able to engage in school and online being so very different, right? So definitely the psychological toll and having not having that interaction that we would have face-to-face with folks.
And that interaction, how we interact and the lack of in-person interaction really affects how we deal with one another. Now, people have responded to this pandemic differently, being vaccinated, not vaccinated, masking, not masking. Why, though, have we all taken these differences so personally, like a personal affront to each of us? What's driving these emotions, and how can we temper that to get back to normal or at least civil?
Right. So I feel it's being driven not just by our anxiety behind this. I feel everyone has some level of anxiety when we navigate different things, right? In addition to that, I believe our fear of the unknown. I think that was something that you brought forward as well in our conversation, just not knowing what is next, right? At any given point, things can change. And we've seen that over the past 22 months or so, that we'll think that we're going in one direction and all of a sudden that's not the case anymore. But what is true is this pandemic is real. And I feel the anxiety behind it, our fear of the unknown, and just not having control over what next is the catalyst to how we navigate this with folks and how tempers flare.
Right.
As far as getting back to center, we talked about seeing people's humanity. And treating folks with care, even better than they deserve, right? And finding ways to formulate relationships. I think when we were talking, I shared that I try not to get frustrated when I engage with folks who may not engage with me in a way I think is civil, because they don't know me well enough, right? Because in order for us to truly get to a place where we can have civil discourse, we really have to take the time to get to know each other and respect each other's opinions.
So don't immediately assume these things and get to know the person that you're talking to. Don't immediately make an assumption on them. And you said it, I think you said, see the humanity in each other.
Yes, yep, that's huge, right? That's the basic space that we start at, all right? Regardless of how you lean, whether it's you believe in vaccinations or not, if I can see you as a human being and listen to your opinions, and whether I agree with them or not, I feel seeing our humanity is a huge piece of that.
Right. Do you think that women have been affected by this pandemic differently?
Absolutely. One of the things that came out of our conversation was that when we respond to this question, that doesn't mean that men or folks who do not identify as a binary gender don't navigate this differently. What we are saying, though, is based on the conversations we're having in our core groups and within our community, women are stressed, right? Like they're having to, and I'm paraphrasing from one of our panelists here, they're having to take time off if they have multiple children in the home now that they're back to work. Our COVID protocols, depending on where you are, can vary. You can be out from 5 days to 13 days, right? So that has truly taken a toll on how we've navigated this. We talked about, I think you brought up balance, right? And I talked about my struggle with the term balance and looking at it from a harmonious standpoint, because as women, as people, we tend to give more to some things depending on the time of year, right? So for women, when you are used to doing things a certain way and having the separation between your work and home life, when you're asked to work from home and when you're asked to do things that don't align with the norm of how things have been done before, that has taken a toll on how we care for ourselves and how we navigate life in this new normal.
Yeah. You know, there have been times during this pandemic that I've really struggled, feeling pretty low. How do we stay positive and upbeat after a year and a half of fighting COVID-19 and we're still in it?
I think we come back to the humanity, right? I think Stacey shared this, that even though we're dealing with all these layers of racism and other things that came out of, that showed its head out of this pandemic, that we also saw people's humanity come into the forefront and how we cared for each other as a community, whether it's, figuring out ways to feed students and folks who were disrupted by this. I feel we center on that, and we treat people better than they deserve, and we show up to spaces and present in an authentic way that allows us to help and do no harm while we help.
Dr. Kalila, thank you so much for taking the time earlier today as well as right now during First at 4 to talk about this. And you can watch this afternoon's full panel discussion at Stepping Up to Equality Facebook page. Thanks, Dr. Das.